Story 1. The first thing I am doing is buying a Superman costume. I do not want to look like an idiot flying around in jeans. I need to wear the underwear on the outside. Story 2. I might end up becoming a villain and turning the world into my perfect image. Someone keep kryptonite on standby if I do. Story 3. Home delivery for snobby horse owners who want 40 bales of alfalfa. I might be Superman strong, but I'm Billy Batson broke. Story 4. I will buy inexpensive land in a jurisdiction that respects the property rights of resource owners. Then I will travel to a metal-rich asteroid and bring a large chunk down onto my land so I can profit from it. That is the best non-criminal way I could think of in a minute to use these powers to become wealthy. Story 5. There are a few world leaders I would like to have a chat with. Probably some chief executive officers as well. Story 6. I would do whatever I want for 364 days, then fly around the world backwards fast enough to reverse the planet's rotation, reversing time and giving myself another 364 days. Story 7. Last time I answered a similar question, I received a timeout. Story 8. I would find a very remote island with no human presence, kidnap the worst dictators on Earth, and leave them there to live out the rest of their lives fighting over the last banana. Story 9. We have been conditioned our whole lives to think that peace is a nebulous, unattainable concept. That as long as there are at least two humans, one wants the other dead. This is propaganda meant to keep you shaking your head and to make the injustices inflicted on you more palatable. It keeps you from understanding how easy our lives could be if we did not have to keep feeding the greed of a handful of people. There are about 90 specific individuals who would have to die for that pressure to go away. I would eliminate all of them on my first day. I would spend the rest of the year dismantling the institutions of greed and capitalist excess that kept all of us working ourselves to the bone for them. I would then ensure we have measures in place to stamp out such greed when it next tries to rise above the rest of us. Story 10. Probably the same thing Superman was made for: fighting fascism. Story 11. Become the richest person on Earth by using my speed to deliver for Uber Eats worldwide. Anyone who claims their order was not delivered will receive a refund. Story 12. Clean up all the nuclear waste in the world and stash it in deep space at a Lagrange point if it cannot be incinerated in the sun. Story 13. Break the National Basketball Association's single-season scoring record. Secure the bag. Story 14. Superman's powers seem to vary, so if we mean the version where he can fly into space, I would go to an asteroid, mine precious metals, and bring them back. I would sell coins made from space gold and platinum at a premium price. For a fee, I would place satellites in orbit or land probes on planets. Elon would get a free trip to Mars. I would also make large, perfectly cut diamonds from coal. Story 15. Free emergency response services for fires, floods, and earthquakes are available. Story 16. Part of me wants to become Superman and do as much good as possible in that year. Another part wants to use those powers to make as much as I can during the year, then use it for good afterward. Story 17. Truth, justice, and the American way. These are in short supply at the moment. Story 18. Fly into space to see if there is life on another planet. Oh, hang on. Story 19. Enjoying not having type 1 diabetes. If I were without it for even one day, I think I would literally break down in tears. Story 20. Have you seen the television show The Boys? All responses will end up like this show. Story 21. I would use super listening power to hear women and children in distress, and then use heat vision to remove the genitals of the perpetrators. Story 22. I am spending that year breaking capitalism and the parasite class, commonly known as billionaires. Story 23. He never does it because he is a good person. I am going to see if he could punch a person hard enough to make them explode. Someone who is orange. Story 24. I will either leave the planet or start vaporizing billionaires until they get the message. Story 25. I am going to poop in so many people's yards from a few hundred feet in the air. You see a speck, then hear a splat. Story 26. Visit a few dictators and warmongers. Gather them on their own private island, where they can dictate to each other. Story 27. Clean up waste around the world. then start on the dictators and warmongers. Story 28. I would solve all strife, evil, and human suffering on Earth by flying into the planet at the speed of light, cracking it open and ending all life. Story 29. Falcon punch the Earth 100 times, propelling it out of orbit into the sun, to force humanity to unite and to accelerate the race to intergalactic exploration and space colonies, for example, anneal cylinders. All within a year. We are definitely capable of this if it were not for all the current dysfunctional structures, jobs, taxes, wars, and politics. Story 30. Okay, let's use Arctic breath to rebuild some of the polar ice. I'm not sure how long it will last, but it has to be an improvement. Story 31. Start flying west along the equator to turn the clock back as much as possible. Story 32. I will not answer that question. I will just say there will be changes. Story 33. Fly into the cosmos, use a laser, and throw or punch asteroids. Story 34. He is crushing coal into diamonds by hand. There is no money in journalism for soups these days, so he is probably already doing the same. Story 35. I think I am more likely to end up as Homelander rather than Superman. Story 36. Make a Liberty Prime costume, land in the United Nations, loudly proclaim democracy is non-negotiable, and personally take all dictators and absolute monarchs to an island in the Pacific. Then fix things like dams and floods until my powers run out. Only speak in Helldivers memes. Story 37. First week, I will reduce the global income gap by providing free trips around the solar system. Second week, I will move every weapon more deadly than a revolver to Saturn. I will convert fissionable materials into power where possible and store them on a remote planet when not in use. Third week, I will hold a conference with world leaders to establish how the world will operate going forward and how I will intervene when I detect problems. After that, I will intervene harshly and publicly for the first few months whenever human rights abuses occur. I will set up watchdog groups in every country, city, and local jurisdiction. I will bring down hundreds of asteroids for mining precious metals and establish non-profit organizations in each country to manage the operations. I will clean up the most polluted areas myself and use funds from asteroid mining to finance the remaining restoration efforts. I will enjoy flying for the probably 3 days I have left. Story 38. Take the Homelander approach with certain people in power. Then run a delivery service to earn some extra money. My government would benefit greatly from materials obtained from who knows where to improve its system. Story 39. March into the House, the Senate, and the White House. Then say grow up. Work together. Story 40. I would just use it so I can sleep in as long as possible before coming to work. I still need money after all. I only have it for a year, so it's best not to draw too much attention to it. Story 41. Fly around the world backwards so time stands still forever. Story 42. I would visit Saturn's rings, see other planets up close, and explore different places on Earth in person. Story 43. The world will be a much better place with so many bad people and things thrown into outer space 24 hours a day. Story 44. Safely dispose of all hazardous waste, for example by sending it into the sun. Support legal proceedings against Vladimir Putin at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Allow scientists to conduct thorough experiments to improve our understanding of the universe. Story 45. I walk into every Hollywood studio's executive office and calmly explain that they are going to take a break from Chris Pratt forever. Story 46. Relocation of various types and quantities of precious metals. Retrieval of items of lunar origin. Exploration of undersea environments to recover objects thought lost forever. Story 47. Wasn't there a Family Guy episode where all the women who worked where Clark Kent did were getting breast cancer because their chests were being exposed to X-rays multiple times a day for the past couple of years? Story 48. I would travel to a new country every weekend. I would sell quick flights into space after work on weekdays. I would look through many walls to see how people decorate. Story 49. I am going to be rich. I am going to secure universal health care and free university through Congress. I am going to destroy all nuclear weapons. I am also going to get rid of all weapons manufacturers. The world will be at peace. and anyone who stands in the way of that will be moved. Hopefully, by the time my powers are over, people will realize it is better to work together. Story 50. Definitely turning into a villain. Standard villain goals. Remove dictators from power and create a new world order. Story 51. Realistically, I would do a lot of bad things to bad people, and I should probably face the repercussions of my crimes once my year was up. I would wear a mask and gloves the whole time and then settle down somewhere no one knows me. Story 52. I would probably run around and save innocent people from crime or natural disasters just like Superman. Then I would gather all the fascist dictators, tyrants, and other evil people and toss them into the sun. Story 53. I would go back to that diner and beat up that asshole trucker every day for a year. Story 54. There was a great scene in the book How to Succeed in Evil where the hero tried to stop a plane from crashing. He ended up snapping it in half while trying to slow its descent. When he tried to save the falling pilot, he accidentally tore the pilot's arm off. That would be me, trying wholeheartedly to do good but messing it up in every way imaginable. Story 55. I would do the same thing Superman did and protect the civilians of Jarampur, Palestine from being massacred by Borovia, Israel. Story 56. I am afraid it would end up like an episode of The Boys. I would try my hardest to do good and uphold the wholesomeness of Superman. Story 57. Hold my breath, grab some rocks from space, and pick off a few problematic people across the world in an afternoon. Light style. Next, crush some carbon into a few slabs of diamond and carve new rules into them. Have a chat in the heavens with every spiritual leader and give them a copy. Charge up. Launch a few satellites to nearby stars to take pictures, then bring them back. Deliver a giant impact to Venus to lower its atmospheric density. Then push debris into Mars to heat its core back up. Story 58. I would spend the entire year bringing material to orbit. Sorry, Elon. I would do everything in my power to construct a ring around the planet that could support space elevators and help pave the way for permanent colonization of the solar system. Story 59. With super speed, super hearing, X-ray vision, and so on, I could covertly gather information from anywhere on Earth. Every secret and every document would be accessible, and I could listen in on secret conversations. I could also covertly take out anything I wanted. For example, Russia's armor in Ukraine. Their fuel tanks would mysteriously explode in the middle of the night. Remain unseen, avoid drawing attention, and act covertly. Story 60. I really liked his work crushing a lump of coal into a large diamond. Presumably, there was some heat vision involved in cutting it down to size 2. 1 sack of coal every day for 365 days and you would be the Diamond King of Metropolis. Postscript. Do not forget world peace. Story 61. Take out at least 1 or 2 government officials, then be a punk rocker. Story 62. I would destroy anyone I perceived as evil or who wanted to stunt the growth of humanity for their own financial gain. Story 63. There would be wealth redistribution, legislative changes, and a new goal to create a better, cleaner, and more just world. I would also fly to and from the Moon and Mars frequently to facilitate our expansion to other planets and orbital bodies, ferrying infrastructure back and forth. Story 64. I take every flat earther on a free ride, and when I saw that they finally got the net, I dropped them in a volcano. Story 65. I am not going to lie. I would squander the time leaping over tall buildings. Story 66. I will be doing many things, but I have a standing appointment on day 364 to begin flying backward around the Earth to rewind time to the first day I had my powers. Story 67. Let us say many people are doing things they should not, and they will no longer do so. Story 68. Day 1. End all corruption. Day 2. Jazzercise. Day 3. Gather those who will form the new government and help them build the new order that will hopefully take another millennium to topple. Day 4. Find every drug known to humanity and enjoy them on a deserted island. Days 5 through 9. Recover from Day 4. Goals for the rest of the year. Put in place many plans, rework entire ecosystems to uplift impoverished societies, and redirect asteroids that could crash the economy. Do some alien searching in distant stars for a short while. A year with all of Superman's powers. I think by around day 200 I've done everything I want. By day 366 I'm ready to die. Story 69. I would be a better version of the Injustice universe. No more wars, low crime, no slavery. I would act as judge and jury. I would build a private island assembled from pieces of mountains in a secret location. Story 70. I would use my X-ray vision to locate large deposits of precious minerals, gems, and diamonds, and mine them myself. Story 71. Definitely stuff that would be considered super villainous. 1. Destroy every nuclear weapon. 2. Physically carve out Israel from the Middle East and plant it in the middle of the Pacific. 3. Do the same with Kashmir. 4. Clean up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Not really villainous. 5. Destroy every government that does not institute laws to fairly tax the super rich and evenly distribute national wealth. 6. Destroy any military body that wages or attempts to wage war. 7. Put sugar in the gas tank of drivers who sit in the fast lane. Story 72. I would build myself a castle. It would be very easy. I would fly to a quarry, cut giant bricks with an eye laser, and then assemble them like a Lego set. Story 73. I will become a villain in many people's eyes very quickly. The world is essentially hell right now, so I would use those powers to carry out my plan to fix it. I am sure many people would disagree. Story 74. I would do many bad things for reasons I think are good. It would likely be a disaster. Story 75. I would remove people whose absence I deem a net positive to society, like that one man. Then I would frame someone for the disappearances. Story 76. Which Superman? If I get to choose, I'm picking Superboy Prime and punching a hole in this reality to see whether something good happens or everything falls apart. Win-win. Story 77. I just need the power for 20 minutes to launch the Earth into the sun. Story 78. Fly to Washington, District of Columbia, and New York City, including Wall Street. Demonstrate my abilities. Hold a meeting with people who need to improve. Story 79. Reduce the number of corrupt politicians and unethical business people. Story 80. I'm taking out Hamas, Hezbollah, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, and any terrorist regime affiliated with them in one day. Day 2, pedophiles, all of them. Story 81. I am thinking of a certain politician. I would take him to the sun and drop him off there. Story 82. Definitely going to be like Batman. Hide my identity and be a vigilante. Story 83. I would genuinely use some of his powerful abilities to solve problems in extreme ways. I speak for many when I say we are upset with the state of the world, and I would likely make bold choices such as overthrowing oppressive governments and altering the environment to help people. I probably would not do it well, but I would keep my identity hidden because he could do that as well. Story 84. I never realize I have them because I do not spend enough time in sunlight. Story 85. Not going to lie, the first month would be entirely selfish. I would fly instead of sitting in traffic and use superhuman speed to finish all my chores in seconds. After that, I would use superhuman intelligence to solve a huge systemic problem, for example, discovering limitless clean energy and then using my speed to build infrastructure worldwide. What one big problem would you tackle? Story 86. Demonstrate my power. Pick an island and demand free creature comforts from the nearest mainland for life. They do not know I will be powerless in a year, but the idea of opposing me is instilled. I will live a life of leisure. Story 87. I would probably use it to fly everywhere instead of sitting in traffic and help others when I can. Story 88. I would be morally gray, but with superpowers for a year I could be very effective. Story 89. Many people talking about mining space metals for cash got me thinking about ways to make money from it. A more sustainable approach that adds value is to learn to build infrastructure for necessary, long-term businesses like power generation. I would focus on constructing nuclear and waste-to-energy plants worldwide. With near-limitless speed and strength, I could erect several power plants quickly and start additional projects. I would research the most profitable locations for the initial projects so that, if I lost my abilities in a year, I could continue the remaining construction by hiring labor. Once the business is profitable, I would hire reliable operators to run it and step back, knowing I created lasting value. Story 90. Save as many lives as I can while inspiring people not to act recklessly. Story 91. Help the person in the previous post who has terminal brain cancer. Story 92. I would deliver National Aeronautics and Space Administration spacecraft and rovers throughout the solar system. I would collect samples from as many planets and moons as possible, provided the information and resources acquired are shared with the world. Superman only needs air to breathe. He has unlimited change in velocity, so rockets would not be required, and he is indestructible. The ability to move freely through the solar system with minimal effort would be a cheat code for advancing our understanding of it. Story 93. Once I get bored of using X-ray vision to look at breasts, I will spend the last 3 days flying around. Story 94. Most people, regardless of their initial intentions, eventually become villains. Story 95. If you are an asshole, I will drop you in the ocean at night. Story 96. Take Donald Trump out to the desert and place him against a cactus to have a chat. I will make sure the cactus needles are long enough. Story 97. Personally escorting the billionaires of the world on a sightseeing trip to the core of the sun. Story 98. The day I wake up with Superman's powers is the day the world changes for good. 2 islands, one for male criminals, one for female, will rise from nowhere, far from any continent and even farther from each other. No politics, no escapes, no executions, no dictatorships, just consequences and pure, raw nature. Let the wild sort out what courts could not. I won't play God, but I also won't play babysitter. As for the rest of the world, humanity will not be coddled with soft hands and empty promises anymore. Justice will have a backbone. Mercy will be earned, not expected. The age of second chances without accountability is over. Hope shines brighter when shadows know their place. I'm just getting warmed up. Story 99. Take care of the world's forgotten landmines. Use my breath to help restore the ice caps. Remove space debris. Clean the oceans. Recover lost bodies from the summit of Everest, popular dive sites, and other remote locations. Plant many trees. Dispose of all garbage by sending it into a black hole. Build a research station on Mars to jumpstart life there. Quickly check for life in nearby galaxies. Story 100. There is not a single thing that would draw attention to the fact that I have all that power. Story 101. There are so many politicians and billionaires I would throw into the sun. Story 102. Expose corrupt government leaders at every chance I get. Story 103. Probably not the most efficient way to solve anything, but grabbing Trump, Putin, and Bibi and hawkgirling them a mile over the Atlantic. Story 104. Engage diplomatically with North Korea, Israel, and other similar regions. Conduct activities in space, remove space debris, and clean terrestrial litter. Explore methods to cool Antarctica using atmospheric techniques to slow global warming. I do not know. Travel around the globe. Story 105. The Epstein files would look more like a to-do list so that all those friends can start spending time with him again, laughing out loud. Story 106. So many dead assholes. Corrupt leaders, upper management of fucked up companies and institutions, human trafficking rings. Then I suppose I could start taking out drug cartels. Story 107. If I speak, the billionaires will kill me. No, just kidding. I'm taking every oligarch, dictator, and complacent member of their circles to see all alive in concert. Story 108. Travel. Imagine you can fly anywhere, even into outer space, completely free. Story 109. Put on a mask. Stop all wars. Ban all wealthy people with assets of approximately $10 million. Ban all royal legacies in every country. At the end of the year, I gave a speech about returning to my world for a little while, and everything must stay the same. Story 110. Laughing out loud. Goodbye corrupt politicians, terrorist groups, evil corporations, oil lobbyists and conglomerates, etc. Clean up this shithole of a planet, figuratively and literally. Get that garbage out of the ocean. I would not abide by his moral code. Time's up. Clean up this shithole of a population. Story 111. I throw myself into the middle of the desert, wander into a random town, start performing miracles and preaching peace, wait for local religious factions to kill me for blasphemy, then pretend to be dead and later resurrect. Finally, I engrave the super commandments on stone tablets with laser vision. Thou shalt not murder, or else Super Jesus will find you and bring you to justice. Story 112. Explore space. Why waste Superman's powers just staying on Earth? Story 113. I destroy every military base, research facility, and factory worldwide, along with every tank, missile system, and warship, sending them all into the sun. An end to weapons of war. Then I gather all billionaires into one room to see whether any of them possess even a shred of empathy or whether they are all raging psychopaths. Story 114. Erase the government, Silicon Valley, every pundit, and the political media. You would never hear any millionaire's opinion about anything again. I would leave them all on the moon. Story 115. End all conflicts. Overthrow all dictatorships and hold free, democratic elections. Keep my identity hidden during that period so no one can kill me afterward. Story 116. First question. When I receive these powers, am I aware that they will expire in a year? I assume that changes a lot of what people would do. Story 117. I am leaving Earth and traveling into space to find a new habitable planet. Story 118. That is hard to say. Of course, you could do petty theft like taking lottery tickets, but if you were trying to be more ambitious, I must admit I do not have enough understanding of politics to know where to best apply my talents without making things worse. Should I weld pipes at sea, save refugees from a war-torn country, or act as a courier and fly important supplies to deliver them faster? Story 119. Step 1. Don't tell anyone. Step 2. Get a mask. Step 3. Start squishing dictators. Story 120. We could end wars, mark, and bring them medical technology centuries more advanced than what they have now. We have already been doing that. If it were not for us, this planet would be in flames. Story 121. Commission my powers so I can have enough money by the end of the year to never work again. Story 122. An underrated skill is cleaning things up. Between supervision and super durability, I imagine I would be excellent at clearing hazardous areas such as minefields. Story 123. Qualify for the Olympics only to fail miserably. Story 124. Go to other planets and see them with my own eyes. Become a YouTuber featuring those experiences. Story 125. I've got a year to get rich. I'm mining asteroids to obtain valuable minerals. And yeah, fucking stuff up as well. I'll start with the Russian and Ukrainian military machines, then rescue the Israeli hostages and tell both sides to stop fighting or else. I'll address the African wars that are happening at the moment. I'll do other things as well, like visit Comet I3 Atlas, go deep sea diving, and other things. Story 126. For one thing, I am not dressing like Superman. I prefer Black Panther because King T'Challa knows how to keep his identity secret, and Shuri can build an impressive suit. I am getting to the bottom of political corruption, and using my super hearing will definitely get some answers. Story 127. Beat my meat at the edge of space. Whoever it hits gets lasered. Rinse and repeat. Story 128. Visit all the places I would never be able to go otherwise, such as the moon, Mount Everest, and the bottom of the sea. Beyond that, I would find a way to monetize the experiences while protecting my identity. Story 129. Snatching up Putin, Kim Jong-un, Trump, and all the other dictators. Story 130. It depends. At the end of the year, when the powers go away, can I avoid the consequences of what I did during that year? I have a lot of justice to dispense, if you catch my drift. Story 131. I would destroy all the world's major weapon systems and related technologies. No more nuclear weapons, missiles, tanks, warships, fighter aircraft, bombers, and so on. You must either talk things out or get close enough to look your enemy in the eye. If you come face to face with your enemy and decide to kill them anyway, There is nothing I or anyone else can do for you. Story 132. Remove all weapons of mass destruction from the world. Redistribute wealth to eliminate poverty, hunger, and homelessness. To start, Story 133. End the genocide in Gaza. Insist on ceasefires wherever needed. Hold war crimes trials. Throw all the nuclear weapons into the sun. Use my super thinking and super speed to cure diseases. Tell the world not to summon me again unless they want pain, and swear I'll be back. If any war buildups happen that I can see from space, I'll come and kill their leaders. Then I'll pretend to fly off but reclaim my life on the last day, like Clark Kent. Story 134. Steal $100 billion, be smart enough not to get caught, then probably use my X-ray vision on women or something. Story 135. I am finding meteors full of precious metals. Drop a large meteor in every country. This would end mining on Earth and eliminate economic disparity. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.